craft notebook that I use to keep all my notes in, and that's what I'll be referring to. And I have a mortar and a pestle, so I'm going to measure these out now and grind them up. I am going to use about a teaspoon of the Cochineal per skein of yarn, but you can use anywhere from a teaspoon to 3 tablespoons, depending on the depth of color you would like. This was actually the first yarn I ever dyed, and I used Cochineal. I really put a lot in. You can tell that the difference in the 2 skeins here. I didn't know much about switching up the skeins when you're working with hand-dyed yarn, so I didn't, but I think it's still pretty. But you could tell that this had a lot more variegation in it, a lot more light pink and white, and then some of this in the middle was much deeper. But it's never faded, and it's been quite a few years, and I just love it. Although it's not a color I would normally gravitate toward, I usually like a more muted pink. I really enjoy this pop of color, so it's fun. And then just crush them up. It takes a while, but there's no hurry. And they're going to form a deep magenta powder. And I want to try to get them as fine as I can, because these are whole beetles. You can also buy them crushed in powder form, but they're more expensive that way. I paid about $20 for this little, they're organically farmed in Peru, these beetles. Let's see if it says anything else about it. But I purchased them from Jacquard Products in California, and I'll leave all the information for you. And now I will add the cochineal to the pot of hot water. And then stir it up really well. And now I will put the lid on and boil this for about 15 minutes. We should be good to go. It's just the most beautiful day out today. Finally, we've had a lot of cold weather. So while the cochineal is in the water getting all that nice color for 15 minutes and boiling away, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the next steps that we're going to take. So at this point, if we wanted to, we could have chosen to add some cream of tartar to the solution, and that will give you different shades. We could also later on add some iron at the end, and we can convert maybe a pink to purple. So once we finish the boiling part, we are going to strain the dye solution with some cheesecloth. So I just purchased this cheesecloth from, I think it was Amazon, but you can get it at the grocery store, I'm sure. So I'm just going to use, a small piece of this, and that'll filter any of the remaining powdery cochineal material, and that will filter it out. And then you can keep that. Anything that you strain out, you can keep it to dye with later. They call it the pulp. So that's what we're going to do. And then once we finish that, we're going to just pour all of the dye solution back into the pot. And this is where we could add the iron if we wanted to alter our dye purple. So I may play around with that and do a little bit, but mainly the goal of this dyeing experiment this month is to create different shades of pinks. So that's the goal. And then I'll catch you up when we get to that point. And yeah, we'll see how it's looking, and hopefully we'll have some beautiful results. So now it's time to pour the dye solution through the cheesecloth to strain out any particles. So I just have a mesh strainer like you would use to strain pasta inside of the bowl, and then it's lined with the cheesecloth, and then I'm just slowly pouring it onto the cheesecloth. And you'll see when I finish that there will be some pulp left over, and I'll be able to use that for dyeing later. And here's a peek at the beautiful color we've achieved so far. Here is a look at the pulp that we strained out of the dye bath. I've put it in a jar, and then I'll leave the lid off for today to let it dry, and by tomorrow it should be a nice powder that I can use for dyeing again. Okay, when you feel like your colors are just too bright and you want to mute them a bit, you would want to use iron. So I just have some rusty nails here in a jar, and then I'm going to put some white vinegar, and that solution should be enough to give me some iron water. I'll just put the top on and leave that for as long as I need to, and then the water should start to change color. I will shake it up every couple days, and then I should be able to use that. Okay, so I have allowed the dye bath to cool, and now the exciting part comes when I can add some of the yarn. So the first one that I'm putting in is a 50-gram skein of 100% pure wool. Okay. Make sure that's in there. At first glance, it is what I would consider like a very vibrant pink. All right, this is another 50-gram skein of DK weight wool. I should have said that. It's 123 yards per hank, but it is technically half of a full skein. But I'm not sure that they're all going to fit. So far that is a total of 150 grams. Here's our fourth skein going in. I'll try to show you a little better. You can get such beautiful colors with this dye material. I'm always amazed, like truly amazed. It's just already, it's so rich. Now we'll heat the yarn to 90 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes, then increase the heat slowly to 180 degrees Fahrenheit for another 30 minutes. Added 5 mini skeins to the other half of the dye solution, and this has been sitting in here for probably an hour, but look at that purple color. Okay, it's been a half an hour, and it turned off, and I just turned it back on because I'm ready to raise the temperature for another half hour. But as you can see, that is pretty much purple so far. So now we're going to go at 180 degrees for 30 minutes, and that should raise up the temperature enough, and then we'll turn it off and let it cool. Okay, let's go check the dye pot. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to add it to this hot water. So I'm just going to pour in a little bit, just a dash, so about that much, and you can see how it reacts. Gets really cloudy and bubbly in the hot water. And then I'm going to stir it up, and I think I'm just going to add it to this pot to see what happens, to see what the change is. I just took that yarn out of the dye and I just put it in this little bit of water. But you can see that it's starting to turn more pink. So this yarn is definitely not finished doing its magic yet. Over here is the dye that I just took it out of, and I'm just going to add some of this iron and we'll see if that, it just kind of mutes the color, brings it down a few notches. So I couldn't help myself and I pulled one of the skeins out of the dye bath that was setting overnight, that was supposed to be setting overnight, because I just couldn't wait, and I rinsed it off. And look at the magic that I found in this purpley pink mauve skein of yarn. And I didn't even try to variegate. This is just nature at its finest. Like, this is what you get. You don't plan these things. You can't. And it's just wonderful. And I'm so happy. And I just, look at it. Look at that. Look at this deep, deep purple. And then, and I mean, this is still wet. Obviously, it's not finished. It's going to soak overnight, and I have to rinse it and everything and dry. And then I can't wait to see it. But right now, I'm just so thrilled to see what it's going to look like. This is magic. Totally magic. Okay, so I've decided to do a little experiment before ending tonight because I was just too curious. I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of citric acid in this water that I just microwaved. And then I'm going to add it to that big pot of water. And then I'm going to add wool right here. And I will leave it overnight to Morton, and then tomorrow we'll see if we can get a different shade of pink or purple. And here is the beautiful color that we got the next day. And I wanted to show you the sludge that we had left over from dyeing yesterday. It's now a powder. It's dried. I left the lid off the jar. So now we can use that for dyeing again. So we never want to waste anything if we can help it. Now, something fun that I really like to do after I have taken the yarn out of any dye bath, really, if there's anything left, I will add more yarn because I love getting those soft, muted colors. They're my favorite. So we're going to add a couple of skeins of yarn here. These are 50-gram skeins of 100% pure wool. And we should get a soft, muted pink. Now, these two skeins were mordanted in citric acid. All right, so that's already starting to soak up some color. I'm going to add the second skein. Now, this one may come out even lighter, which is never a bad thing in my world. Look how beautiful that looks. It's almost a peachy pink right now. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll turn up the heat. Now, just like before, I'm going to set the heat to 90 degrees and heat this up for 30 minutes. Then increase the heat slowly to 180 degrees Fahrenheit for another 30 minutes. Now we're going to rinse this beautiful color. This was the yarn that we used the iron on, and it just toned down the pink and made it this really, really beautiful color. So we're going to rinse this off, and then I'll add some Blue Dawn dish soap and then hang it up to dry. My favorite part about this month's dyeing session was that we were able to achieve 4 different colors with one dye bath. And then I ended up doing a 5th with a different dye bath. So 5 different shades of pinks and purples, which is pretty awesome.
I'm breathing. I know it took a while, been looking for a sweet song, a sign of spring, waiting for a reason to laugh, to sing. 'Cause I've been spending all my time to figure out just how. I've been spending way too many thoughts on what went wrong. But what goes up must come down.
Okay, let's see how this pink is looking now. It's still really warm. Oh, okay, now that is a warm pink. It's showing up peach on camera. Let me see if I can, yeah, let me try to pull away a little more. No, I think that's still, it's still showing up as peach. However, trust me when I say this is a warm brownie pink, the kind of pink that I really like. Yeah, you'll see the difference later when I rinse these out. Now, as far as rinsing, you will notice that your first batch, especially when using Cochineal, is a lot harder to rinse. You know, when you're dyeing with that first dye bath. And then as you continue adding yarn to the exhaust, to whatever is left of the dye bath, if it doesn't get completely absorbed by the wool yarn that you're dyeing, then you can use it again and again. And I always use it until the water runs clear after heating. And let's see if we're there yet with this. There is just the slightest tinge. I don't think that it would really make much difference if I put a skein of yarn in there, so I probably won't. But I can still use all of the pulp that I have left. And like I said, this will get me a pretty concentrated pink or purple, depending on what we use for our mordant. because clearly using the citric acid gave me more pink hues than using the alum. So it's your choice. Oh, and then I can't wait to show you what I got when adding the rust. So that was super exciting. So we ended up with a lot of different shades of pink, and I can't wait to show you all of them once they're rinsed and hung and dried. Stay tuned. Look at this beautiful pink we got. This is the last of the dye. Yeah, the water is quite clear, so we won't get anything else out of this one, but I love this color. I think it's perfect.